Good morning, everybody. I think lots of people are in already and more will be joining us. My name is Jill Fraser from Mayo Rehab. So thank you for joining us. We've got an interesting webinar today, which is life after amputation. And we are very fortunate to have one of our lovely clients, Aaron, who's here on your screen in an orange top. And his personal trainer stroke rehab assistant, who is Gavin, and you'll see him on your screen as well. And together they've got a lot of information to share with you. I'd just like to set something out. So as we meet Aaron today, he is going to talk about his journey since his amputation and what happened. And we've got a series of questions to ask him. He has then been kind enough to accept an invitation to come back and do this again after he's had his surgery. And his surgery is for osseointegration, which we know not too many people have had here in the UK, but it will be a great opportunity to see the before and after with Aaron. We would like you to ask any questions that you like afterwards. But don't make them tricky because Gavin's worried. So nothing to worry about, Gavin. So we're going to record, so hopefully that's okay. Please stay for it's maximum of an hour, and there'll be a period of time at the end when you can ask all the questions. If you don't feel able to speak up and ask, please just send us a message and we'll ask for you. But it's very informal. This is just an opportunity for us to all get a bit more information on the journey after catastrophic injury that resulted in Aaron's amputation above knee. So I am going to start, if everybody is happy, and we've got several questions. Like mastermind, Gavin. Do not
He's in the black chair, isn't he? He's all right.
So my first question, well, my first comment, Aaron, thank you for coming. Can you tell us about your injury and tell everyone here and what happened?
Yeah, on the 5th of February last year, I was involved in an incident at work when I was crushed by a part of a crane that wasn't meant to be lifted. And what happened was that whilst it was lifting up, another part lifted and swung up and caught me, and it crushed the bottom half of my body. Well, whilst that happened and they got me to hospital, they put me into a reduced coma. In the reduced coma, they tried to save as much of my leg as they could. So they tried to keep my knee to begin with. Unfortunately, it was too far gone. They went above knee, and they managed to save as much of it as possible. Obviously, the longer the better when it comes to having your leg amputated. They reconstructed my left leg. There was a lot of damage with my left leg. So that was reconstructed, held in place due to a lot of bone being taken out while the incident happened. So they held that all in place. I then had blood clots to my lungs, sepsis, and I got put on ECMO. And when I was put on ECMO for quite a while, to be honest, they drained the blood through, filtered it out and put it back in. I was in the coma for 33 days, give or take, I think, something like around about that time. I thought February off anyway. The pubs were shut, so we stayed asleep for that. So yeah, when I woke up in intensive care, coming out the coma, that was strange. Like coming out from being asleep into reality. It's upsetting, but it's also very frustrating. You don't understand what's real and what isn't. You can see why people get frustrated and they start lashing out because they generally don't know what's going on. Especially when you've got tubes coming out of everywhere and you've got that bloody machine going on do all the time. Whoa, that rattles me now. But they done great while I was in. I got really looked after very well. I was in there for about 3 months. I had my ups and downs while I was in hospital. I cried a lot. It was a lot of like not understanding really what had happened. I couldn't really remember what happened for a very long time. After 3 months of being in hospital, I was able to then come home, which again I thought was going to be really, really good. I was happy whilst coming home, but once I did get home, I think it was like a reality check of not being able to then go upstairs, not be able to access certain rooms, not be able to even go get a drink for myself due to being in the wheelchair, and then be able to only have a banana board from the chair to the bed, or the vice versa into a car to go to hospital appointments. It does take all of your independence away, to the point that my mum having to change the commode for me, which at 32 at the time, you don't really want your mum to be doing for you. But so yeah, going through the accident to having the amputation, I'm a very positive person, but it did hit me quite hard to begin with. But luckily enough, I've got fantastic friends and family around me, which made that a lot easier, and made the process a lot easier for me.
So when you were in the hospital and before you were discharged back to mum's, did you have a chance to consider how your future was going to look at that point?
Yeah, so when you were in hospital, and especially because at the time it was COVID times, so I wasn't able to see any friends or family. I was stuck, if you want, in between four walls. So you have a lot of downtime to think. And when you then think too much, you overthink. And when you overthink, you would tend to start thinking about all the negatives and about what you can't do. And that overshines like everything else. So like I knew that I was going to get better. I knew that eventually in my mind I was going to get back up and I was going to get going. But in the present moment, you don't feel that way. You feel down. You're drugged up to the eyeballs. So that doesn't help either. The amount of drugs that they put you on, which you need to be on, alters your perception on everything. It does make you feel like crap, basically. And it does make your perception on everything not great. You think negative. So I did think, oh, I'm not going to be able to walk. I'm not going to be able to go back to work. I'm not going to be able to do the little things in life that you can do with your children. So I've got two young children. I was thinking about even just holding their hand and going to the park. I wasn't going to be able to do, and that set me off quite a lot. I cried a lot. But I think the difference between being in that down place is being able to how quickly you can then get out of it. And I was very fortunate that I was able to get out that rut quite quickly. So yeah, I had every right to be upset and angry and cry, but it was then not getting over it, but excuse me, it's coming over that and then getting positive again, which I was quite good at doing.
So you had enough time in that hospital bed before you went home to think literally every aspect of your life and question how you were going to do everything and what that meant.
I knew that when the accident happened, I knew my leg was going to be cut off. I mean, as you could imagine, it wasn't a pretty sight. So I accepted that very quickly. But it was strange. Like the first thing I thought of when that happened, it was like you would think if an accident that horrific happens, or you think your leg's going to come off, is like your family and friends. I literally thought I'm not going to be able to work again. That was the first thing that come to my mind. I don't know if it's because I was in that environment or whatever, but then obviously everything else come into mind. But it was very negative to begin with, but I was able to overcome that and then think positive in the long run.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Aaron. I think Lisa's got some questions for you next.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Oh, can you hear me? Sorry, I'm not sure Lisa's made it this morning.
Okay.
But I know she did send me her questions just in case she couldn't make it. So I'll read them out for her, Aaron, if that's all right. You don't mind answering on behalf of Lisa.
Go on then.
So she wanted to know, once you'd had the surgery, well, you kind of already answered this one, is once you had the surgery, how did you feel? But you just answered that basically.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because when I was in hospital, I had 15 operations. A few of them when I was in a coma, but then a lot of them while I was awake as well. So the operation itself to have my leg amputated, I was in a coma. So I didn't know about that, but there was a lot of skin grafting and a lot of tidying up and things that needed to be done while I was awake. And like weirdly, I actually quite I quite enjoyed them operations, not because it was the operations, because I was kind of like a day out for me, because it was COVID and because I didn't see anyone or do anything. It was going from that room, and then I was having a laugh with the people going down there, and then I gave permission for the young surgeons to come in and see what was going on as well. So then eventually everyone was, "Are you all right, Aaron?" And everyone knew each other, so it was kind of like a day out for me eventually. And because of them again, like the medication and the morphine and everything, sleeping was so out of sync. So when you go for your operation, they knock you out. It was great then. I could go to sleep. I was happy. So it wasn't too bad, to be fair. I was all right with it.
Okay. Different, not what I expected you to say, but
Get the jolly lads out in to go get it tucked.
Okay, so her next one was so had it occurred to you or been brought to your attention that there were different options out there for you to assist with your recovery? So once you'd sort of, you know, initially got over it all, were you told what might be ahead for you?
Prosthetic wise.
Yeah, or just in terms of generally, you know, what could physically, what could you look like? Was that explained to you?
Yeah, it was. But again, like, because I'm going to mention this quite probably a lot, because you are drugged up a lot, things aren't massively clear when you're in hospital in that position. But once things start dying down, they then come to you with options. But consultants aren't the greatest people to speak to, especially mine. Mr. Kirkovich was the person who done all my projects. He's a fantastic man. Don't go. He's great, and he's done me proud for everything. But he's very blunt, and it's like basically they've got to tell you the worst scenario, and it is really upsetting. But they've got to do it. But you don't realise at the time that that's just a proper out there scenario that could happen if you can't. So it was due to the trauma to my stump. It's not pretty. I don't have a, if you want, like a traditional nice rounded put your stump into a suction socket, be able to get going, and then throughout the day, once your stump shrinks, you can put a sock on or whatever to then tighten it up and get going. Mine's quite random, flat with skin grafts and so on and so forth. So it's quite bumpy. It's not nice and smooth. So before even Prosective even spoke about it, was the risk of you might not be able to have a prosthetic leg because of that situation. And then they didn't know at the time, because of how swollen everything was, going to take a long time for everything to go down. So they did throw in the options of, if everything does go the right way, you should be able to have a socket or try it. If it doesn't go down that route, which they were quite adamant that it wouldn't, and they're quite right, but we have to try and exhaust all the options first. So the socket wouldn't work that they thought. So osteo would be another option, because that's what something Mr. Kirkovich does privately as well. So he obviously knows about the procedure and how that could help me in the future. But that's as far as any kind of rehabilitation or prosthetic kind of thing went. I wasn't aware of any, like the time scale, what I needed to really put in, but I wasn't really massively explained like any of that, because it was just basically trying to get me healthy, I think, to begin with.
Yeah, so very, very much tailored to you and where you were at that time, I imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Lisa's next one was so well, how do you think how are you doing now at this point in sort of your journey of recovery? How are you finding things at the moment?
Great. So with me, I get pushed. I have a great team. So through coming out of hospital, so if I go from that point to where I am now, as I said before, I was solely in a wheelchair and I couldn't do anything due to the external frame around my right leg, left leg, and the right leg obviously not being there. Massively fatigued, it really poorly, really weak. But coming out of the coma, I was quite skin and bone. So to then get the strength and to do the physio and everything, like we had to put a team together. So luckily enough, we got Gav, who's my PT, and Lucy, who's my physio, and us working with each other most days to begin with, to get my strength up, to get the physio in, to get the stretching, was very minute to begin with. So it was myself, for instance, in my front room in a wheelchair, Gav with a band in the hallway, myself holding it, turning around. That is as little as movement as I was getting, but it was a start. Getting a disc on the floor with a wedge, putting my ankle on it, not my ankle, my heel, sorry, and pulling that backwards and forwards. That was a lot of pain, and that's as far as I could do for a long time. That was that, until we started building it up slowly and surely and getting to the gym. I think it must have been from the accident to getting down to the floor, it must have been about 6 months to be able to actually sit on my bum on the floor, to be able to then access different ways of exercising. So it's been like little things add up to massive gains, and then you then shut like the book to another chapter. So the things were excelling quite quickly eventually after we started to be able to get quite a lot more done. I had a lot more energy. I wasn't so fatigued. The infections that I was getting with the cage died down, because that was a massive factor. That was happening quite a lot. So to be able to eliminate infection, not completely, but die that down, we were able to then exercise and do more. So to sum it up, after we then got the prosthetic side things sorted with Cat at pace, and I was able to get back up on my feet, learning how to walk, got the cage off, getting that hard physio on the left leg, be able to then properly get Gav to batter me at the gym that we do most days. So then from there to now, I'm up and I walk about. I walk from my room to the car, I drive to the gym. From the gym, we go in there, we do our hour session, I have a shower, I'll go around my friend's house, family. I play darts on a Thursday with my mates, which I had to learn how to drink walk quite quickly, because that's a skill, trust me. to have 2 beers in your hand and walk as well, not spill them. That's important things. But my day-to-day living now is so much better, to be able to just walk to the shops, like to drive somewhere, park up, walk about. There's not really much now that and I've still got a long way to go recovery-wise that I didn't do, that I've done then, that I do now. So I can do majority of things. It's just trying to push me further and to get that stamina and get going more.
I think Martin's got a question.
I have. Thanks, Gab. Hi, Aaron. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, you?
Excellent. Yes, very good. Thank you. I will come back to you, but my question's for Gavin. Just get Gavin into the conversation. How have you found working with Aaron, or in particular, somebody with an amputee?
It's been really, really interesting from my perspective. Yeah, Aaron's the first amputee I've worked with, and in some respects he's very, very similar to a lot of the other clients I've got. In others he's very different. One thing which is kind of not to say that, kind of one thing that kind of makes my job very, very straightforward in terms of what I need to do is the fact that he's got such a good team around him. And I think the most important thing from my perspective, looking at how I approach, working with Aaron, I think is sort of listening to what physio is saying. I think physio for me is my sort of first port of call. And then physio obviously takes their lead from the consultants. So, all the way down the chain, you've got sort of clear instruction as to what you need to do. And once that filters down to me, I'm kind of fortunate enough that I've had probably the most touch points with Aaron. I mean, early days, I was seeing Aaron probably every single day. Now I see him a few times a week, and we interact pretty much every day still, even if it's just for a chat and whatnot. So I think whereas other departments, if you like, in this process, are under pressure to make a huge amount of impact in a small amount of time. because we've got so many touch points, you know, we don't have to make a huge amount of impact in that 1 hour. If we can just make a little bit of progress, you know, we can pick it up again tomorrow or in a couple of days, or, you know, just after the weekend. So I think that for me is kind of a really good thing about sort of, you know, working with Aaron. And I think, you know, seeing overall how much impact it's had, you know, from my own personal perspective, really fulfilling as well. You know, not gonna lie, that's great. You know, coming on this call, I was sort of reflecting on where Aaron was when I met him and where he is now. And I think, you know, because I see him all the time, you kind of forget, you know, where we started. And it's, you know, we do this occasion, don't we, Aaron? You know, we sort of think about, you know, where we were this time last year. And it's crazy to think, you know. And, you know, Aaron's always, you know, as everyone knows, Aaron's a really positive person, always looking to the future and thinking about, you know, if we've achieved this much in this period of time, you know, where are we going to be this time next year? You know, it's I think that kind of sums up the process of me working with Aaron.
Excellent. And from what you've learned as you've gone on through the process, would you do anything differently if you had another client?
Would I do anything differently?
He's throwing you now, Gavin.
You cheating on me with other amputees?
Yeah, you've gone off. You've gone off piece on the questions. No, I don't think I'd do anything differently in particular. I mean, obviously everyone's, you know, we're dealing with individuals, so, you know, what works for Aaron isn't necessarily going to work for anybody else, and I don't think I would attempt to sort of, you know, go down exactly the same route. I think that, you know, sort of like I said, listening to what physio, what OT, what consultants are saying, I think that's the most important thing. And I think, you know, the direction from them is going to be different, obviously depending on the individual. I think it's going to be, I think, you know, the learning curve is going to be a little bit shallower. So yeah, no, I don't think there's anything in particular I point to and say, yeah, I definitely like do that differently, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's a answer. Sorry.
It does. I think we were really lucky when we found you, Gavin, because you're PT trained, but you also did rehab assistant. So you had two roles, because it wasn't just PT that Aaron needed, it was everything else. It was all activities of daily living and support with his new physical situation and adjusting to that, that you had to help him with all those other things as well. So you had a dual purpose and it was perfect.
Yeah, I think from, you know, like I said, you know, from a physio and OT perspective, you know, it was just about, you know, understanding what was required of Aaron, and, you know, going through the repetitions in the gym is exactly the same as, you know, going through the day-to-day living processes and making sure Aaron's got that support there to be able to, you know, practice and get stronger and you know, build that muscle memory to do, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's, you know, doing reps in the gym or, you know, getting yourself up to make a cup of tea or whatever. It's exactly the same. And, you know, being there to make sure he goes through those processes and does those repetitions of whatever it is. Yeah, I think that was, you know, that was the main reason I was there.
And I think the model of this support is fantastic, because to use that with other people in Aaron's position, I think it's almost like best practice from my perspective, because you've got that background. And there's so many aspects of rehabilitation that you are implementing, but because you can also do PT, I just think it's a great, you know, it's a great service to have that for somebody who's just come out of hospital like Aaron had, and now he's come a long way. So I'd just like to say thank you for that, Gavin. You did a great job. You're still doing a great job. It's not goodbye.
It's the combined work with Lucy and Kat, isn't it? The communication's been key. So where Gav's been doing great with the building up muscle, but with Kat and Lucy combined, they can then like say to Gav, right, this is the areas that we need to work on to strengthen up, as being able to muscle like overcompensates in certain areas. So you've got to strengthen up these particular parts. This is the kind of work that we need Gav to be able to like put into a gym session, as well as put in stretches and so on for the physio side of things. So then they will then filter that down to Gav, and then everyone then communicates with each other, and then it just benefits me massively. So that's why we have WhatsApp groups and things like that together, and we send photos and videos to each other, and we can communicate with each other that way, and everyone's on the same page then. So not everything's getting lost. It gets focused. We smash that, and then as soon as that becomes easy, that's forgot about, and then we go on to something else, don't we? And it's always, nothing's ever easy. Everything's always difficult because it's always new, because we always smash it so quickly.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's superb practice. And it's got you to where you are now, which leads us into the next group of questions we have, because this has all been about building you up, ready for the next chapter. So, Gabby, do you want to ask the next questions?
Yes. Sorry. Well, actually, well, we've got a lot of rehab assistants, and we're getting more and more clients who have amputation. So it's really good to get for them to sort of get this insight from you, Aaron. So one question I was keen to ask is what made you choose to have osseointegration? Why did you decide to go ahead with this?
So as I said earlier, with Mr. Kirkovich, but it wasn't just that. It's speaking to medical staff. Obviously, I've got to know the knowledge behind it. Obviously, I had no idea what osteo is, what it was going to do for me. So to speaking to professionals about things like that, I had to understand what that was going to entail and how that was going to benefit me. I needed to see if it was going to benefit me as well. So for instance, having the socket that I've had for the last year nearly, to see if that was going to work. Unfortunately, due to shape, due to skin grafting, it wasn't feasible. It's not working. Unfortunately, after a very short amount of time, my leg will start to come off near enough. It starts to snake. But not just that, I start getting very, very harsh skin irritation because of it. So if you can imagine the liner on my leg and it's bolted into my socket, when that starts going loose, it's starting to pull at the skin. So it's initially giving me a massive hickey on my stump, which is getting sucked on constantly, which then starting to get really sore. So as much as I've still got energy in me, I'm still wanting to give it some and get going, my leg won't let me. And it's not even my left side anymore, it's the stump side, due to the damage and the skin irritation. And it's a pain in the arse basically. But to then eliminate that, to go down the route of osteo, is being spoken about with PACE, like, as well, where I do my rehabilitation through learning how to walk, and I do my physio with Kat as well there. Jamie does my my legs. They've spoken about, they've had people that have come through with the same kind of injuries on that side, and they've had people with osteo that have been like benefited massively from it. So to speak to, as I said, professional people, then also I see a couple of people in real life come into PACE, walk in, and it is their story behind it as well is like they genuinely forget that they've lost their leg. They'll put it on in the morning, won't take it off until they go to bed at night, and that's the kind of gain that I want to get. I want to be able to eventually, once I hit a certain limit or a certain stage of everyone's happy where I am, I want to then start thinking about going back to work, be able to be on my feet all day and get going. So yeah, it's definitely obviously medically advised to an extent, knowing other people that have had it in the kind of same situation as that I've been in, and it is going to benefit me. So you've got to like weigh it out, and it is looking like that it was and is going to be the best option for me.
Yeah. So has it certainly helped seeing other people who've had it done to help make your decision? or would you have just gone and looked into that anyway, having heard about it?
I would have looked into it anyway, regardless if I saw anyone having it done, but in real life, like face to face. But having that face to face, don't get me wrong, has made the decision easier to see how well you can perform with that surgery. So after having a socket is great if that works for you. That's not working for me. Having the osteo will work for me, and it will sort out the undergoing issues that I have now, and it will make my life easier. And seeing other people that were in that position and now where they are, walking for miles on end and doing their day-to-day normal lives and their stories, yeah, of course it's going to make my decision a lot easier.
Yeah. So what sort of feelings are you having, you know, in the run up to having the surgery? Are you wary? Or are you just full steam ahead, let's crack on?
No, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited because I've exhausted every option that I could go to this point. So now it's kind of, let's get the osteo done, and then that's going to eliminate all them other issues that I've got. In the long run, even if you're looking later on in life, having the osteo is going to eliminate a lot of medical things that could go wrong with me later on in life, with backache or pelvic problems and so on and so forth. So they have to not have to worry about that kind of thing, as well as obviously maintaining my health and gym work and so on and so forth. It's not just going to be a magic trick. They're going to operate and I'm going to be okay. I've still got to work still. So I'm excited to do it. And I've met people. I've gone to the Royal Free London Hospital. I've gone and met the surgeons. I've gone to Eckham and Dorset Orthopaedics and spoke to the people that before the during and after care. Everything. I've spoken to everyone and everyone's been great. Everyone's really happy and wanting to get going, and so am I.
Brilliant. I was going to ask what would you like to achieve having you once you've had it, but you kind of answered that as well. But have you got an ultimate goal that you've got, like, you know, in your mind's eye, that you think that's what I want to hit, that's the one I'm aiming for?
Just to be as close to, as if you want, normal as I was before. So I don't want to be Superman. I'm not pretending to be. I'm not naive to the fact that there will be things that I can't do, but there will be ways that I can go around it. So, for instance, driving and things like that, I can still do that. I just use hand controls. I want to be able to just get up in the morning, go about my day, and come home. And that's regard if it's going to take my kids to the park or going swimming, whack my leg off and then go swimming, put it back on, the ease of it. The ease of being able to just pop it on and pop it off. I mean, think about how much leg room I have in bed now when I can just pop that off as well. It's great. It's great. And then put that back on, get up and get going. But and I think the main thing for me as well is work. I'm only 33. At the minute, my work is to be healthy, get strong, and get the operations done that I need to do to be back up on my feet as much as I can. But as I said, I want to be back at work with the lads, have that banter at work, get back to kind of normality, and just live my life as good as I can.
Brilliant. It makes total sense. Thank you. I think those were all the questions I had.
Thank you. As Mex is at home having a baby, I'm going to ask his questions. So, Gavin, these are for you. Gavin, how do you think Aaron will cope with his gym work after the surgery? And do you have a plan in place to tackle his determination to be in the gym when he might not be in ship shape straight away?
I think I'm going to try and support Aaron to do whatever he wants to do as much as I possibly can, where I think it's, you know, where it's safe to do so. But obviously, like I said, I've mentioned it again, you know, it's going to come from the consultants through physio, and then it's going to get to me, you know, and ultimately, you know, it's not going to be me who makes that decision. When it's time to go in the gym and put the work in the gym, I'm going to get the green light and we're going to go and do it. I think from a different perspective as well, I mean, Aaron's always been very, very patient with himself. So it's never been like trying to rein him in as much. I mean, obviously, like I said, he's very positive, always looking to the future, always sort of thinking about where we're going to be in, certain points of time. But it's always been a case of, right, what can we get done today? Can we, we can make some improvements. If we can get a bit of progression, great. If not, if he's having a bad week, and we've had a few of them, if we can just get something done, great. If not, need to rest, that's also fine, because that's part of the process. So I don't think, from my perspective, that's going to be too difficult. Sorry for the really boring answer, but yeah, no, it's like I said, it's yeah. I mean, we'll just support him with, in whichever way we can, and like, ultimately that decision is not going to be mine to make. So yeah.
There's a question that just popped up on the screen. Where's it gone? That was from Pete.
Do you want me to ask the question
yes,
verbally?
please, Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm looking to have my left leg amputated across the tibia, and I'm aware that it's likely I'm going to get a socket prosthetic, but I am interested in the osseointegration, and my concerns are I don't think it's available on the NHS at all. Am I right in that? Private NHS.
As far as I know, and Scott, I've seen Scott is in here. You might be able to answer this. I don't think it is.
I can jump in, actually, if you don't mind, and answer. My name is Brian Chenyer. I work for Blesma, the Limbless Veterans Charity. I'm currently part of the NHS England Policy Working Group that are helping to develop the evidence base for commissioning for evaluation for osseointegration in the NHS, using the lessons learned from the MOD NHS pilot. So you're quite right, Pete. It's currently only available through private clinics in the UK and private surgery. But the hope is, and with the experiences of people like you, Aaron, that this may become available on the NHS for cases just like yours. So it's currently only available privately, but we are working very hard with lots of people to try and make it commissioned, so it is on the NHS.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you. But does that answer your question, Pete?
It certainly does, yeah. Thank you, Brian.
Before we move on to Martin's questions, Aaron, can you just say where you're at now? Because I know we're about to start this new chapter, but we've got some nice things happening, haven't we? After you've just been through all of this stuff, you've got a lovely nice new house.
At the minute, I'm in my mum's conservatory. That's where I've had to be due to not be able to get up the stairs, but I can do now. But luckily, I've been able to buy myself a new home, so I've got my new house that I've got, and I'm currently furnishing, which is great. That's I'm able to look after myself to an extent. Don't get me wrong, I still need a bit of help during things, but getting my own place in order from being back home with mum. Don't get me wrong, she's been fantastic. She's helped through everything, especially when I wasn't unable to do anything. But now, moving out, getting my own place, having my independence back, being able to do my own thing, that is really important. Again, having that, there's going to be some adaptations needed doing, not naive to the fact that some things need to be changed to help me out, to make life easier for me. It doesn't mean that everything's going to look like a complete disabled home kind of thing. Everything else is going to be changed with handrail everywhere and things like that. That's not the case. I just need things like my drive route through put up to the door. As I said, having osteo, there's a period of time when you're going to be in a wheelchair. So it's about a 3-month period of on-off through weight bearing, being in a wheelchair, being on 1 crutch, 2 crutches, so on and so forth. So to have that stuff in place at home for me straight off the bat, I can then come out of hospital, and still look after myself in my own home. So that's important, to be able to then get back from having an operation, having osteo, not be able to have a leg on for a while, but be able to clean myself, go to my bathroom, have a shower, and things like that. So that's a massive step for me going forward. It's great. I'm really looking forward to eventually be able to not have to ask mummy when I can come home. That'd be a good start.
Thanks, Aaron. Martin, you've got some questions.
I have. Aaron, these ones are for you, mate. So
Crack on.
From your journey so far, would you recommend other people in the same sort of position as you are go down the OI route?
I think that's all dependent on the person and the injuries that they've got. So if you're not needing to go and have invasive surgery, then why? If you've got, again, I'll say a normal stump. No, nothing's normal, but a perfectly nice round is something that you can put a socket on, be able to maintain, be able to happily walk, keep your day-to-day life going. Then that personal decision on them, it's up to them to do what they want. But I think if you don't need to go through that route, then obviously don't. But if your injuries are as bad as what I say is bad, but in the same condition as what my stump is, and it's not beneficial and it is hurting, and I can't maintain a lifestyle that is right for me, and I can't get up and get going constantly throughout the day, then osteo is the way forward. So I think that's definitely dependent on the person, the injury, loads of different factors, I guess. I don't think age is an issue. Maybe later on in life, due to bone density or anything, they might take that in consideration. There's different factors to have the surgery. But for me, yeah, this is definitely the route for me.
Yeah, I thought that would be your answer from what you'd said previously.
Can I just make a comment on that one, Aaron? We attended a prosthetic conference a while back with and Dr. Norbert Kang, who I believe works with Dorset Orthopaedic.
He's the one who's going to be cutting me about.
I thought he might.
That's it.
And I just remember he gave a really good speech where he said it doesn't matter at what point, if on a lower limb amputee, it doesn't matter at what point on the leg you'd like to have osseointegration, as long as you have 10 centimeters of bone, he can do it. And he even went as far to say, even if you don't have any bone, we can create one or stretch it. So, which was I thought was really
doesn't matter then. That's all right.
Yeah, the man's a magician. You're in good hands. Sorry, just wanted to mention that one.
Yeah, thanks for that, Gav. Yeah, just another one. I know you sort of like alluded to what your activities post operation, but do you have any specific achievements that you're looking at, or any particular goals post operative?
So after osteo, again, where I'd like to obviously just do the norm as standard, obviously, just to be able to do my day to day. But I would like to be able to experience more of the world if possible. I want to be able to go and I feel like my eyes have been because of the injury have been opened a bit wider to be able to go different places, see certain things, experience certain things. I don't know what yet, but I feel like that's probably the exciting thing. Is that the unknown, not knowing what I want to do is quite exciting. But like things like this, I never done this before. I went to university at Hatfield yesterday and done a talk to 4 different classes. I've never done anything like that before. So again, this kind of role has opened up loads of different things. So we'll see. But I'm happy to take whatever on. But I think the important thing for me is to be able to do my day-to-day standard thing, to be able to do that with ease, to be able to, especially with my children. Not too long ago, I went on a roller coaster with my kids. I wouldn't have been able to have done that a year ago. My leg would have flown off. So it's a lot easier now to do things.
Yeah, you don't go Heather Mills on us now, do you?
Yes.
And not to be negative, but are you aware of any downsides to your procedure?
So with any kind of operation, there's always a risk. So especially regarding like infection, you got to think that you're going to have a bit of metal sticking out your leg for the rest of your life. There's skincare that needs to be put in place. You need to maintain that. You need to think about, I guess, what environment you're in, how you're going to look after your leg when you're in that place. I know, for instance, after osteo for a good year, I'm not going to be able to go in a swimming pool. Things like that. You got for the sake of a year for the rest of my life, kind of weighing that out, it's not too bad. There is obviously factors of, I guess, if I were to go down quite hard, like a fall or something were to get in the way, there's a risk of like a fracture, I guess, or a break in the pole. I'm not 100%, but I'm guessing that's still a factor. Again, it's all about knowing what you've got and how you're going to look after it and being sensible to an extent. That's going to be hard for me, being sensible, but I've got to do it. But yeah, definitely risks with everything. But infection, I think, is probably the main one to try and keep that open wound essentially clean.
I guess we'll know more after your surgery as well, and we revisit this. I'd just like to go back to Brian. He's got his hand up.
Thank you. I don't know if there was another hand up. I don't know if that's a legacy hand. The name on the screen is Care Manager. But I'll. So did you have a question to go first?
It was kind of, I saw your question and it was kind of very similar, Brian. It was kind of, we talked a lot about sort of physio and OT and personal training, but my question for Aaron really was about mental health, and that kind of, when I saw your question, it kind of tied in a little bit with that. Now, Aaron, you're a very positive person. I've met you a couple of times. You've had me in stitches, to be honest, but that's the outside, obviously, that I'm seeing, and what's inside is personal to you. And some people have needed help with their sort of some psychological support, their mental health with this. I mean, you might not be one of those people, but obviously there may well be others out there who are struggling to come to terms with that. I might be wrong. I mean, how have you felt throughout this process, and you know, with looking after the sort of your mental health side of things?
So like early doors, I was upset quite a lot. I cried a lot. I had to give my mum quite a lot of cuddles, quite a lot of the time to begin with, because the future was unknown and I didn't know how I was going to be. As much as, like you say, a positive, and I wanted to be able to say that I was going to get back on my feet and run about and do whatnot, it might not have been the case. So I have a really good friend and family group as well, like really good. I don't feel that I can't not talk to them. I can talk to my friends about anything, as sappy as it can be. If that's going to be beneficial for me, then they might. We'll have banter, don't get me wrong, and we'll take the mickey. I've lost my leg. That's a great ammo for them most days. Trust me, that I get it's great for them, for me. But I can quite happily say my emotion and how I feel personally. So as I said, I've been very happy to get going, but I have had a lot of down days. But I feel like it's important to how quickly you can then get out of that. If you're going to be down for days on end, then maybe you're seeking a bit more professional help, maybe the way forward for some people. Fortunately for me, it's not been the case. I've been able to pick myself back up and get going again. But then the further on it's come, it's just normality for me now. Everything's just normal. Where it wasn't like that to begin with, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of drugs, a lot of everything that was hurting a lot. And then when you're in pain, it's not nice. Everyone knows if you're not going to be happy when you're in pain. So when that pain was less and less, and now I'm not in any, apart from after a long day with my leg on, when it starts to pull at my skin and hurts me. Apart from that, but then I rest up. But with mentally, I feel like if you are in a place, I feel like talking to people is absolutely the way forward for me personally. I have no shame in saying if I feel down, and my mates have always been like, if you want to talk, we're here for you. So I'm very fortunate. Not a lot of people have that.
I mean, it must have been quite traumatic for your parents as well. And obviously, you talked about your mum and how involved she's been. So how has she managed? Is she, you know, if they had someone that they can talk to?
Yeah, so I had I still have got Alistair who I can speak to, his psychologist. So I will speak once every few weeks to begin with, especially. He come to speak to me, and it was great. We just spoke about absolute nonsense half the time, but it was nice just to get whatever off your chest, which I did with my friends and family anyway. But my mum had that option as well. So, but I think that we're quite, as a family, we're quite open and we can talk to each other anyway. She actually dealt with it really well because she is quite a sensitive person and anyway, my mum, and for her to deal with this has been fantastic. She is great. But being at time, obviously, when I was coming out, I was 32, having to have your mum clean your own mess up in a commode, it's not nice. You don't want your mum to be doing that at your age. So some things can feel a bit degrading, but once you go past that and it's just a way of helping for now. It's not forever. It's just a thing for now. And then just getting past that and talking about things that aren't going to be there forever. This is just a temporary thing. That helped.
Yeah.
But family, friends, as I said, and team in general, me, like myself, Gav, Lucy, Kat, Jamie, we speak to each other daily. And again, communication is key. And it's not just about working. We all speak to each other and have a good laugh. Our WhatsApp group's called The Last Leg. And we have a good laugh and send each other photos and have a good laugh on that. So it's just try to normalise things, I guess. And I just feel happy. I wake up in the morning, I have my own routine, and I think that's key, especially like with your mental health. If you know what time you need to go to bed, what time you need to get up in the morning, things that you're going to do through the day. If you don't have that and you just sit about and watch TV all day and just sitting between forwards, you're going to overthink things. It's going to get negative again. So keeping busy, keep going, having routine is key.
So that's your advice to others then, really, isn't it?
Routine is definitely key. If you have a bedtime, I know it sounds weird, if you have a bedtime and you know you need to get up in the morning, you then aren't going to be sitting up until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, then wake up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You need to then go to bed at a decent time, get up at a decent time, sort your nut out. But I do my skin routine is what I have to do every day. Make sure that my skin grass looked after. I've got my vibration gun that'll go on my muscles. I then get up, do a stretch, put my leg on, have a little walk about, have some toast, and then I'll get on with my day. And you do that every day, and then it keeps normality.
Self-discipline then.
Yeah, it took time. It didn't come overnight. That's something that's had to go. As I said before, everything was out of sync. Everything. So now to have this normality is great. And then I have meeting Gav. I have to meet him at the gym, say at 1 o'clock. I know that I know that's quite late on the day, but everything takes time in the morning, and I can get things sorted if it's emails or if I need to go into town quickly. Me and my mum might go out for breakfast before I go out to the gym, and then when I go to the gym, then I have a shower, then I rest when I go home. Then it's dinner time and the day's gone. And that's that.
Thank you, Aaron. Brian, is your hand still up?
Just very conscious of time, so very quickly. I think Martin Fraser asked a brilliant question about aspirations and goals, but I think the answer was equally fantastic, because one of the things that we've been doing in the NHS policy working group is to absolutely make the point that this isn't about an intervention that will allow people to climb mountains and row the Atlantic and break world records. It's about them being able to get up in the morning and do the things that the rest of us take for granted. So it's really encouraging, Aaron, that you've had all the support, information and advice that you've been given, but more so that you're realistic, and you know, we will be pushing as hard as we can for this to be available on the NHS as soon as possible, because it can be life-changing, but life-changing in the respect of people being able to do what they need to do. So good luck, mate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are some more questions and comments coming through, but they pop up on the screen and then they disappear. I don't know where they go.
One of them is from Sarah. It says, Aaron, you'd make a great motivational speaker. Have you ever thought of a career change?
I'm being really polite. I've dumbed it down a lot. I just like to talk. And then I think, again, I feel comfortable with the people that I'm talking to, and it's just nice to be able to get things off your chest and to talk about things. It's nice. And then it's having other people. I've met someone called Sadie. She was on the news last night actually. I met her. She had sepsis. She had her irons and her legs chopped off through sepsis, and we support each other. So I went to hers not so long. She was really down, and I'll chirp her up, and I won't be so nice where other people will feel like they have to be. Where obviously I feel like I have this card that gives me a little bit of a right to give people that have their legs chopped off and whatever a bit of crap. And I'm all right with it. I can't then get told off. So we're all right to be able to do that to each other, kind of thing. So like motivating each other is great. And it's not just me, it's other people that motivate me as well. I don't just do that. It's great that everyone else can be that towards me. Everyone can be themselves.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Have we got any more questions before we wrap up? Questions for either Aaron or Gavin, who's been by his side this whole time?
Holding hands.
Start a rumour. Any more questions?
Oh, I have one for Gavin. Oh, I was just gonna ask Gavin, have you got a plan ready for the changes in Aaron's fitness regime once he's got his OI finished and done with?
We asked that one earlier, I think.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be very, very reactive to his situation at the time. Obviously, I know he's keen to, as he always is and he always will be, to progress. But yeah, I think at the time we'll look at it and see, right, what can we do, and yeah, try and make some more progress.
Thank you. I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'd just like to say that thank you so much, both Aaron and Gavin, for being open, sharing all of this. Obviously, we know you're a fabulous client, and as I was saying to you earlier, it's so easy sometimes working with you because you just have this positivity, and you have come so far. And then we're going into the next chapter, so we're all excited about that. And you've got a great team around you. I'm so thrilled with all the people that are in your team. It's just been almost a model process from my perspective. And I know you're going to come back after the operation and share that experience with everybody. So hopefully everyone will come back and hear. But thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much.
I'll get my stump out and get everyone have a look then, can't they? Have that wiggle about. You can have to see.
Have a good look, and you might even be in your new house, and we can all see how it's all working for you and how the experience went. But thank you, and thanks everybody for joining us today.
Thank you, Jill.
We're getting lots of clapping things going on, and thank you. I should know my techie terminology, but I don't. Sorry, but thanks. Thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Gavin.
Much, everyone.
Thank you.
See you at 1 o'clock, Aaron.